Hello, welcome to Classical Greek Latin. My name is Josh. I am the teacher for this course. This is the Latin lesson number 4, and this is for chapter 3 in your Wheelock book. So today we're going to be covering the second declension, masculine nouns and adjectives. Apposition, big word, but very simple concept that we'll cover very, very briefly and spend hardly no time on. And then word order is not very important if we know our declensions well. So let's jump into that. We've already learned the first declension. I'm going to write this out for you. The first declension was the feminine. So if you remember, I, if we include the vocative. And then I, autumn, is, us, is for the plural. Right, so let me write all this out. It's a pretty simple lesson, some pretty simple concepts. So here we have the singular second declension, so masculine, so amicus, so it means friend, and then so you have us, I, o, and then you have the matching adjective or an adjective that does match because it's modifying, so the great friend. But let's go ahead and review real quick, so we can see all this in context. The first declension, feminine. All right, so now this is a good exercise to do as you're learning new vocabulary, to write out, to decline your words as you learn them. Okay, so that's what we're doing now. Is I am declining. I'm going to use the vocative here just for now. Later on, it'll become so rare, we really won't use it very much anymore. So let's do this. Let's see here. Let's make this one singular. And I'm trying to make room for both masculine and feminine. Okay, so we'll do the first declension, which was feminine. Okay, so we have all the cases here. And then we have the feminine column, and then this is going to be singular, right? So we're going to do the same thing over here. I'll rewrite the cases for you just to be clear. Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative, and vocative. Okay, and this is going to be our plural our plural declension. Okay, so let's see, feminine over here, and we will have the masculine today. So it's not too important, but feminine is first declension and masculine is second declension. The neutered that we'll cover in next lesson will also be second declension. Not terribly important to remember, very easy to remember though. Okay, so let's start with the singular first for the feminine. We'll go ah. And you should have these memorized by now. And so I, and then for ablative, and it is long, right? And then you have an for the vocative for the feminine, okay? And then let's do the plural. So you have I, autumn, is, us, is. Okay. And then the vocative is going to match the nominative in the plural also. Okay. So let's see here. And now let's do the feminine, or excuse me, now let's do the masculine. Okay. All right, so we have, it's going to be us, and you have I, o for the dative, so I for the genitive, o for the dative, and then for the accusative, and then o for the ablative, and then for the vocative and the masculine is going to be a. Okay, so make sure you're looking at what I'm writing and not just listening. We pronounce it E in English, but I'm saying A. Okay. And then let's see here. So these are all going to be long. Well, not all of them. The genitive, dative, and ablative are going to be long. So you note that the dative and ablative are the same, so you can only tell those apart from context. We just write them out to be consistent with the paradigm, right? Let me draw a line here to help clarify this. Okay. Now the plural, you're going to have E. Okay. And autumn. Now you note that in the plural there's a lot of overlap here. Autumn, autumn. And then the dative and ablative plurals are going to be the same, right? Is, and then you have os. Okay, and then here in the vocative is going to be just like the nominative there. So there you have it. And that's basically what you're learning now is the second declension masculine endings, right? So really it's just a matter of memorizing it. And the best way to do that and kill two birds with one stone is going to be to, as you get your new vocabulary, to write it out. So they have amicus and magnus. So let's see here. So let's do filius and filii. And we'll just do this as an example, right? And let's see, what adjective should we use? I guess we could say, I don't think bonus. We'll just use bonus. It means good. And, all right, so we have, let's write this out. So if you look on page 27 of your book, that's where I'm taking this from. I just picked a noun out at random for us to decline, just to let you see it in another form. So we have filius and filii. Okay, now I'm going to decline that just so that you can see it. So more than one. So they give you amicus and a magnus, and I might, yeah. So we'll see. I just want to let you see this with a different word, so you get the overall concept better. Okay, so this is going to be our singular column. Now we are just doing masculine. I'm going to keep these columns aligned so I'm not creating confusion. And then we'll do the same over here. So I'm declining. This is what you call declining, right? I'm writing this noun out in all of its forms. Okay, so now when you have, so a noun comes in one gender. It never changes that gender. Whatever gender it says in the dictionary, that's what it's always going to be. And then an adjective, like, is going to be able to change its gender, because an adjective, you can have a girl that's great, puella, magna, a great girl, or you can have a boy that's great, puer, magnus, right? So magnus, magna, magnum, has to be able to change its gender to match the noun, whatever noun it's modifying, but nouns will always have the same gender, right? Okay, so we're going to do filius, okay? So we have filius, okay? So filius, and then we're going to say bonus, okay? We'll just say the good son, okay? Bonus, all right? So there you go. And now let's just go through this. So we have now filii, okay, and then we have boni, okay, and now we have filio, bono. So we have the good son as the subject here is the nominative. Then we have of the good son, and then we have to or for the good son, right? And then we have filium, bonum, right? The good son as the direct object, and then you have the ablative You have the ablative by or from the good son. Okay. Now note that the ablative and dative look the same, so context is going to tell you how to translate that. Interesting thing also to think about is Greek does not have an ablative. If you look at any of those lessons over there on the Greek side, and it's interesting that Greek does not have an ablative, and so some of the functions that are taken up by the ablative case in Latin are actually fulfilled by the dative case in Greek. So it's interesting to me that with that in mind, that the ablative and dative are often indistinguishable from each other. And they are indistinguishable always in the plural for the first and second declension, right, ECs. And then also in the singular for the masculine and the neutered. Okay, all right, and then let's see here. Now we want to talk to the son, so we're going to say filiae, and then bone, so we're going to address him, call him out, right? So that's the singular there, and let's see here. Okay, now let's do the plural. So now we'll do the plural, draw my line here, help the eyes, and now we will do the plural. So filii, okay, boni. Now also keep in mind a point of confusion here. The nominative plural looks the same as the genitive singular. Okay, so just keep that in mind, and context will tell you, right? So if you have a verb that is plural, laudant, for example, the good sons they praised, it's probably telling you that this is going to be nominative. Just not always, but in simple sentences you'll see. But as you learn Latin more and more, it will become more obvious, right? Okay, so now we have filiorum, and then bonorum. Right, and then we have filiis, bonis. Okay, those are long marks over the eyes I'm writing there. And then we have filios, bonos. And then we have, again, the ablative is the same as the dative in the plural. So we have filiis, bonis. And then we have the vocative, going to be the same as the nominative in the plural. So we have filii, boni. All right. So that is good practice. Take a noun and an adjective and put them together, and they're always going to match. So they're matching in the case, nominative, so nominative filius, nominative bonus. Or genitive here, filii, genitive, genitive. Okay, dative, dative. The adjective that goes with the noun has to match the noun. So the adjective conforms to the noun. Whatever the noun is doing, the adjective is going to change and shift shape to match that noun, right? So it's going to match in case, same case, whichever case it happens to be in. Then it's going to match the number, either singular or plural, right? So filius, bonus, both are plural. Filii, boni, filius, bonus, both are singular. Filii, boni, both are plural, okay? So if we were to take filii, boni, for example, and we were to parse that word, or those two words together, we would say it is nominative, plural, masculine, okay? So that is filii, boni is nominative, plural, and masculine. And that's how you parse these words. Parse means to cut a word up into its component parts, right? Okay, pretty simple. Now the next part is probably the hardest part of this chapter, which is not especially difficult. It's just a little unusual. So normally you have your masculine words ending in us, like here, amicus, magnus. Almost all your nouns and adjectives that are masculine are going to have us in the nominative case for the singular, right? So us, yeah, us. You have a couple of words that end in er in the nominative. So these are a little unusual, but let's just take a look at them. They're not very complicated. It's just they keep things interesting. They stave off boredom. But let's see here. Let me grab my pencil. Well, there it is. Okay, so this is a good time to talk about the stem of a word. So go ahead and read these paragraphs on your own. I'm not going to read them all for you. But take a look here. Puer. There's the word boy. I mentioned that earlier, right? Puer magnus. So here's the example, right? So if you go to the genitive form, the root of the word is going to be in the genitive form. So the genitive case ending, the inflection, the bending of the end of the word, in this particular word, from nothing to an I, you drop that case ending, and that gives you the root of the word, puer, right? So now here, the nominative is the same as the genitive, right? That is an accident. You can't always rely on that. So you always want, and ager agri is a good example, right? So the stem of agri, which means field, get the word agriculture from this, right? Is just agr, right? And then that e is inserted to enlarge that, to make a syllable there for the nominative case in the singular, right? So if you were to write any of these out, let's see here. So puer in the dictionary is going to look like this. Puer. And then it's going to say masculine, right? So what it's doing is it's giving you the nominative form, and then it's giving you the genitive ending of the singular, and then it's going to tell you the gender. And then that also tells you that this is a noun if you perchance didn't know what it meant, that it means boy, right? So if you take ager, the dictionary entry is going to look like this. Okay. And that's, so now ager is not the stem of the word. So that's important to remember. Let me just get another piece of paper here, because if you assume that ager is the word, you're going to make the mistake of adding your endings like this, right? So this is wrong. So you're going to do this, right? Agero, agerum, and so on, right? But that's incorrect, because the correct form is agri, not ageri, right? So that's important to know what the stem of the word is, and you get that by looking at the genitive case, okay? So that's why it's important to know how dictionary entries work, and to also know that the stem of the word is always going to come from the genitive singular form, okay? So the only weird thing, and it's not really weird, but if you look at puer and then magnus, right? So when we had amicus, right? Magnus. That's obvious that they're both nominative singular masculine, because they have us. That's easy, okay? And most words are going to be easy that way. But sometimes you'll get irregular words like puer and or puer and ager. So you have, let's say, ager, magnus, right? So until you get used to this, when you see the er and then the us, your mind might not immediately say, oh, this is a nominative singular masculine, this is a nominative singular masculine. They go together. These two words together are the subject of the sentence, right? It'll take you a while to get used to that seeing that the endings being different doesn't really matter. as long as you know that that is indeed a nominative, just like the us is a nominative ending on Magnus, right? So that's basically that. So go ahead and, let's see here. So go ahead and write this out. That is my recommendation. Whatever works best for you to memorize such things, but write these out as much as you can. And the best way to do that is learn your vocabulary while you're doing that. So take your vocab words and just decline them. So as you go through here and decline them, you can even decline them with an adjective like I did for you with filius bonus. I don't believe bonus is one of your words yet, but it means good. But yeah, take what they give you here and just decline them as you go. And you're learning your vocab, and then you're also learning your declensions, right? Your declension endings for the second declension masculine. That's pretty straightforward. Like I said, this is a pretty simple chapter. Let's see here. Comments on vocatives and other case endings. Note that some second declension endings are identical to those in the first, okay, and others are similar. Oh, this is interesting. Not to get too much into the weeds here, but your accusative, even with the that's first declension, that is feminine, and then is going to be your masculine, right? And then later on when we learn it, also you're neutered. But the significance here is that they both have a labial nasal, the M sound, right? So even though they're changing the vowel to change the gender, you can see that consistency in the concept of the labial nasal M signifying the accusative direct object, right? So that's some interesting things there. Same thing here. The S is being added for the accusative plurals, and the lengthening of the vowel for the feminine and the masculine from A to A and O to Os, right? So there's some interesting things there. Nothing overly profound, but read through that on your own if you so wish. And let's see here. Let's see. Okay, we talked about adjectives agreeing, and I do this gender, number, or case, number, gender. You can write when you parse. Again, I'll do this. I do case, number, and gender in that order. I've done it that way for years, and it's good to find a system and stick with it. So this is the way I will be doing it in that order, right? So if Magnus, parse that. This is parsing. So the case is nominative, Magnus. The number would be singular, Magnus. And the gender is masculine, Magnus, right? So it would be nominative, singular, masculine. And that's how I parse. And yeah, we did that with this word right here. Just so you have the visual there, right? Filii boni, this is nominative, plural, and masculine. So case, nominative, number, plural, and gender is masculine. All right, that is the order I recommend writing those in when you do parse those words out. And let's see here. Okay, so I read through that. Okay, opposition, apposition. Basically what this is saying, if they never wrote this paragraph in here, you would be just fine reading Latin without it. And again, it just means, apposition means it's something is placed, pono, like you deposit into the bank. You set something into the bank, right? You set it down. Here you set something towards. All it means is that it's a noun is positioned next to another noun. They are treated as the same, okay? So Gaium, filium meum, inagro video. Okay? So what this is saying is that Gaium is the filium meum, right? So it's not that Gaium and my son. It's saying, no, my son is Gaium, is Gaius, right? So that's what it's saying. Now, that being said, you could figure that out just by looking at the case endings. It's all accusative, singular, masculine. So, of course, they're all going to be the direct object of video, I see, right? So you don't really have to know apposite, like the word apposition, but that's what it means. And yeah, because if they were distinguishing my son from someone else who's named Gaium, there would probably be an 8 in between separating them, right? So anyway, that's that. Word order. Word order in Latin doesn't matter. You can read through that if you'd like. If you know your case endings and you know how each word is functioning in the grammar, it doesn't matter what the word order is. And really, there's no point in anticipating the habit of what Latins, the habit that Latins had in ordering their words. You will acquire that by reading Latin. You'll get a sense for what is expected in Latin just by reading Latin. There's no sense in like memorizing an expected word order that the Latins used. Okay. Here in vocabulary, this little chapter is nice. This chapter's vocabula list introduces several second declension masculine nouns. As is clear from a word like ager, agri, a noun's base is best determined by dropping its genitive ending. We talked about this, the I there. And the surest way to identifying adjective's base is by dropping the nominative ending from the feminine form. Okay. Okay. You can go ahead and read this on your own. Pretty good advice there. And let's look at the vocab. Let's see here. We might keep this lesson under 30 minutes today. All right, which should be nice. Okay, so go ahead and work on your vocabulary here. Write these out on flashcards. That's how, you don't have to, but that's how I always learned my vocabulary. And include your macron marks, accents. They're not important. So yeah, but do include your long marks. So like fame, mina. Yeah, there's a long mark over that E or that A, right? And whatnot. The long marks are more important over the inflection endings, the case endings on the end, like distinguishing a long ah from a short ah to distinguish the ablative singular from the nominative singular in the first declension, respectively. Right, so there's your vocabulary. Go ahead and work through that. Let's look at some prepositions here. So you have de, and in. So de is a preposition, and then, of course, it means plus ablative. So that means that the word that will follow this preposition, that word must be in the ablative case, right? Yeah, so that's what that means. Let's see here if I can think of an example. Yeah, so if we were just to say day from the sun, down from the sun, it would say de filio. Right? So de plus the word, the noun, and then that's going to be in the ablative case. Right? Oh, excuse me. Yeah, de ablative here. Right, same thing. Accidentally, in is a preposition plus ablative also, right? So that's what that means. So preposition plus ablative, that means the noun, the word that follows it, maybe a noun and an adjective together, but they're going to be in the ablative case, and they have to be. And each preposition will require a different case or can take a couple of different cases, and any dictionary entry will provide you that information there. That's what that means. Take a word like hodie. They tell you it's an adverb. It means today. Adverbs cannot be declined, so there's no way you can't add endings to this like us, I, o, o, a, right? So there's no way to decline an adverb. It's always just hodie is how it only ever exists as hodie. Same thing as semper, another adverb. And okay, yeah, that looks good. All right, now let's look at our exercises in Antiquae. Sententia Antiquae. Okay. So go ahead and let's see here what they're asking us here to do. Yeah, okay, so just go ahead and translate from the Latin into English here, and then you get to number 8 and it switches on you from English, so obviously provide the Latin for those. Same thing for Sententiae Antiquae. The difference between these two is that these were made up by Wheelock, and the Sententiae Antiquae are actual Latin phrases taken straight from real Latin. Okay, and so yeah, Sententiae Antiquae continues on page 29 and ends with number 11. And I will provide you the answers for the exercises and then the Sententiae Antiquae. I will not be giving you the translation to The Grass is Always Greener. You're welcome to translate that on your own. And if you do care to ask me some questions on that, you can ask those in the comments below and I'll help you out with that. But I'm not going to provide a full translation of The Grass is Always Greener. Just exercises and Sententiae Antiquae. Okay, so the rest is just for your enjoyment. There's some stuff here in etymology, which is pretty interesting. All right, so if you find this interesting, it is fun. I think it's fun. And yeah. And then next week, we will be covering chapter 4. Second declension again with neuters. Next week's lesson will also be pretty simple. Okay? All right, well, thanks for joining me today. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, leave those in the comments below. And I will see you next week. Thank you. Bye.